So there have been a bunch of visual novels I've been meaning to review, but it's just been a while, so I don't remember a lot of the details. So I figured I could talk about them in a video series I'm going to call Andrew's Visual Novel Quick Recommendations. The idea is that I like all of these visual novels and would like to recommend them to people in 3 to 5 minutes or less. In this video, I'm going to be talking about My Fair Princess, developed by Peas Soft and translated by Soul Press. Does the idea of a visual novel Moege taking place at a rich school setting sound familiar? It's because you've likely heard or even read popular visual novels for this type of setting like Princess Evangile or Kinkoi Golden Love Riche. The one immediate thing that makes My Fair Princess stick out compared to those two is how the main character, Satoshi, gets into the school. While he is on the poor side, he doesn't get in through a chance meeting with a princess-like character cheating him in. No, instead he actually gets in through a scholarship, so he's actually quite respected by the students and teachers, as opposed to the protagonists of Evangile and Kinkoi, where they're basically hated by 95% of the students and teachers at the way beginning. The other thing that stuck out to me personally was how much of Satoshis family is actually a decent part of the main story. Anytime they're on screen, it's always through wholesome interactions, so there's no unnecessary incest fan service, which is rare for modern Moege. There's your standard little sister who's about a few years younger than the main character. However, there's also triplet sisters who seem to be at least 5 years younger than the main character, but there's also a baby sister who's likely no more than 1 year old. And then there is his mom, who's actually a part of the story as well. Unfortunately, Satoshi's dad is actually confirmed to have died before the story started, which has affected the family life. It's caused the mom to basically have to work a lot more to feed 6 children, and even Satoshi himself had to get his own part-time job in addition to working hard to get a scholarship to get into the best rich school. While his dad may be dead, there were nice little hints that Satoshi and some parts of the family were inspired by what the dad did, so it's a cool detail to see. Anyway, getting back into the school setting itself. This visual novel is otherwise a typical Moege or lighthearted romance visual novel. The common route is all about getting to know the 5 main heroines. You interact with them, get into a romance route. Getting into the routes are quite easy, as throughout the common route, you have very clear choices choosing on who you want to hang out with, so just keep choosing them until you eventually get onto a route. The common route is mostly standard fare, but there's at least a pretty interesting theme around the protagonist being low-key blackmailed into being the main actor for a play for an upcoming event. And he even has to recruit others to be in this play to fill in the major and minor roles. It does eventually lead to a nice group dynamic between the main character and the main heroines and a few other minor characters. Once you get into the heroine routes, things generally become more standard Moege fare, romance with some lighthearted slice of life. There is one route I thought was completely out of place, where there's just a twist that makes it not even a Moege anymore. All I'll say is that to get into this route, you have to make a very different late choice compared to getting onto the others. Anyway, to get into the main heroines, the arguable main heroine is Kana, who's easily the wealthiest heroine in the whole school. She has a cool personality, is the head student body representative, and the one who ultimately got Satoshi to be the main character of the Common Routes play. Ayame is the vice president to Kana. She's basically the dere character and secretly a manga author, which becomes a big part of her route. Hitomi is a Genki girl and is also openly affectionate to Satoshi. Her case of being rich in the school was interesting, as she's actually a genius in robotics. She even created an android called Chloe, who, while not perfect, is perfectly capable of acting and speaking like a human. And then there's Rin, who's the resident tsundere of the group, but I actually think she's fairly likable compared to most tsunderes because she gives into her nice side to the others pretty often and doesn't resort to physical hitting like many others do. One interesting thing about her is that she actually has a job as an idol where her personality is completely different. And finally, we have Mikey, who's the closest thing to the typical Ojo-sama or rich girl character. However, she does have a hidden loneliness, and her family has a history of theater, which a big coincidence, as there's a play that's a big part of the common route. My Fair Princess to me is an overall decent, wholesome Moege slice of life. Most of the characters are likable, the family and play themes were interesting, and the romance and melodrama were decent enough. There was one route I didn't like the ending of, but it didn't detract me from the rest of an otherwise fun time. Currently, you can only buy My Fair Princess on Steam. If you have any questions or comments about My Fair Princess or this video, feel free to leave a comment below.